4 civilians orbiting the Earth on their own.
Although the onset of the coronavirus pandemic put numerous projects on ice, it looks like things are finally back in full swing when it comes to the tech world. From reports of motorcycles damaging iPhones to space tourism being just days away, you'll want to know more. So stay tuned as we explore the headlines fanatics should be aware of. Number 1, Inspiration 4 is close to launch. First up on the agenda is the story on everybody's lips. We are, of course, referring to the impending launch of Inspiration 4, the first SpaceX tourism flight which has been organized and funded by Jarek Isaacman. According to reports, this mission is set to be the first all-civilian launch into orbit, which would bring humanity closer to the type of space tourism we have always wanted. That being said, it's not like this flight will be the first instance of space tourism of the year. Who could forget the strange space race between Sir Richard Branson and Jeff Bezos that took place a few months ago, resulting in a successful suborbital trip? But what makes the Inspiration 4 mission any different from these two? Well, the obvious difference is that it's being launched by SpaceX, the billion-dollar company headed by Elon Musk, which is responsible for most of the orbital developments alongside NASA. The mission also has a heavy emphasis on public involvement, with the crew consisting of a billionaire, physician's assistant, data engineer, and geoscientist. But by far the biggest difference between Inspiration 4 and the last few space tourism launches is the actual destination of the upcoming flight. For those of you who don't know, both Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic were able to take their respective owners to a suborbital launch. In fact, according to experts on the scene, Virgin Galactic wasn't even able to reach the so-called Kármán line, which is said to be the imaginary border that separates space and the atmosphere of the Earth. The key word here is suborbital, though, with SpaceX wanting to take its space tourists on a whole new journey, the likes of which we have never seen before. Believe it or not, but the Inspiration 4 is looking to actually break this cycle, allowing its passengers to spend around 3 whole days orbiting around our home planet. Since none of the passengers have any formal astronaut training, this mission has also been called the very first all-civilian flight. This is made possible by the fact that the rocket is 100% automatic, with none of the passengers needing to control anything. It's a real sit back and relax kind of situation, but this doesn't mean that the civilians didn't have to go through some intense training before launch. Space can be a pretty dangerous place after all, and if anything is to happen to these passengers, there's no doubt that space tourism is an industry will take a massive hit. In just under 6 months, the crew has undergone hours of simulator training, lessons which have taught them how to fly a jet aircraft, and more than a few minutes in a centrifuge to prepare for an insane G-forces that they are about to feel come launch. And when it came to the 30-hour simulation run of the crew, they were also faced with a real-life disaster. Not with the effect of turning them away from the mission, of course, but one that would cover the worst-case scenario and give them at least some experience at solving a problem in space. Billionaire Jarek Isaacman had the following to say about this extensive civilian training schedule. The last 45 minutes, there was awareness from us in the capsule and them on the ground. There is like a chance that this might not actually be a survivable situation. The simulation in question took place in the full-scale Dragon spacecraft mock-up at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California. And as it turns out, the simulation in question didn't just take the form of virtual flying as you would expect. The crew were asked to consume the type of food that they would be eating while on their 3-day joyride, and in some instances, they had to find ways to entertain themselves while waiting for launch delays caused by simulated weather incidents. And then at the very end, the crew had to face their very own disaster. Although not much had been said about the simulated disaster that the crew had to survive. Axios had mentioned that it was a culmination of everything going wrong. In the words of a spokesperson of the company, the disaster was described as follows: everything started to go wrong in a cascading series of failures that almost made the trip itself end in failure. As we mentioned earlier though, none of the crew were thwarted by this extensive training, with each and every one of them set to launch in just a few hours' time. And just in case you were wondering, the crew is planning on eating cold pizza along with some other fresh foods while they orbit around the Earth. They were also able to pick some of their favorite movies to watch just in case they get tired of staring out at the vastness of our home planet, but we doubt they'll need them. Number 2, Amazon is introducing palm swiping technology to the public. There's no doubt that SpaceX has the leg up on both Virgin Galactic and Blue Origin if this fully automated launch is successful. But this doesn't mean that Amazon will be taking things lying down. According to reports, the online retailer that was established by Jeff Bezos will be making waves by bringing its own version of palm swiping technology to the Red Rocks Amphitheater in Denver, Colorado. Suffice it to say, the correct working of this technology at the concert venue will most certainly result in it being spread to other venues in the coming months. But what do we really know about this technology, and how is it about to make our lives easier? Well, as it turns out, this technology is very similar to palm swiping technology used inside of Amazon's physical stores, where the public has been able to pay for food and other items using nothing other than their palms. In the same breath, this means the concert attendees will have to sign up to connect their palms to a ticket account by hovering their hands above a device before the event. Once signed up and registered, they will never have to do this again. In other words, this will create an environment where people will be able to simply swipe their palms to enter a concert venue after having bought a ticket. No need to present the ticket at the door to be checked either, as all this information will be kept in the palm of your hand, literally. Bringing this technology to the Red Rocks Amphitheater was the result of Amazon signing a deal with AEG, an entertainment company who sells tickets to the ticketing site AXS. And according to Brian Perez, the chief executive officer of AXS, the Red Rocks Amphitheater is by no means the exception to the rule of having to present your ticket. In the coming days, this system will be spread across the United States, bringing about a new technological era. And since this will allow concert attendees to reach their seats a lot faster, there's no doubt that the public is looking forward to this innovative process. Who knows? Maybe one day we can also buy apparel, food, and drinks at these venues using nothing but our palms. Number 3, Apple has warned users against using motorcycles to get from A to B. Last but not least, it appears that Apple has been making the news for all the wrong reasons in the last couple days. According to a report released by the technological giant iPhone, users should be aware of taking prolonged trips on motorcycles, and this has nothing to do with the fact that a motorcycle is one of the most dangerous means of transport out there. In fact, the announcement was actually made off the back of the discovery that high-intensity engine vibrations could harm the optical image stabilization or closed-loop autofocus systems of the phone. In other words, attaching your iPhone to a motorcycle may very well damage its camera, and in some instances may even eradicate the functions of the camera altogether. In order to prevent this from taking place, Apple has urged its iPhone users to buy a range of vibration dampening mounts that will protect the smartphones in question from the possibility of damage occurring with prolonged motorcycle rides. But this isn't exactly news to iPhone users who also fall into the biking community. Many of these users have been complaining on social media about the damage that has been done to their phones, with many stating that the company was far too late in bringing this to their attention. And it's not like just one specific iPhone model is susceptible to the damage caused from high amplitude vibrations, as communicated by Apple. As it turns out, the majority of iPhones fall into this terrifying category, making motorcycle drivers incredibly nervous about taking their phones from A to B. According to the aforementioned report, these damaging vibrations could be transmitted through the frame and handlebars of a bike, and as such, direct exposure to high amplitude vibrations within certain frequency ranges may degrade the performance of these systems and lead to reduced image quality of photos and videos. This is why Apple has warned motorcycle drivers to not attach their iPhones to their bikes unless using a dampening mount. Not exactly the most ideal comment considering how the majority of drivers find it necessary to attach their phones to their cars and bikes for navigation purposes. Suffice it to say, bikers will most likely be migrating over to Android in the years to come, with smartphone companies like Samsung and Huawei not experiencing the same problems with their products. What do you think of the latest technology headlines?